I'm highly overcaffeinated at this point, so you know what that means. It's time to record a video. Hi everyone, my name is Diane and this is my Pink Bathtub Knits. Welcome. Welcome if you're new and welcome if you are a returning subscriber. I appreciate you wanting to spend some of your time with me.
Quick little weather report for you all. It is winter. It is currently minus 19. Went lower overnight, minus 24 with the wind chill. We are expecting more snow tomorrow. And it has been freezing rain lately, and our road is like a skating rink. And I almost went into the ditch going to get the mail the other day. So there you have it.
But I have had some ups and downs in my crafting this week, hence the name of this episode being Heroes and Zeros, because I had a few stumbling blocks along the way, and I have 4 projects I want to share with you today. Plus, we are going to look at our first Canadian hand dyers yarn in my series of Canadian hand dyers for 2024 later in this episode. So let's talk about why I haven't been wearing my new Advent sweater. I have it here. It is semi-complete now. I still need to weave in the ends. Maybe I need to have Alice come over for a visit again. I don't know, Al, but I'm going to do that this afternoon. But I had a big stumbling block with this sweater. I was all cheeky, just going along, didn't swatch nothing. It fit beautifully. It really worked out. And then when I got to my ribbing at the base of the sweater, everything went awry. I initially had it on earlier to share with you folks, and I noticed that the base was curling up at the bottom of the ribbing, and I just knew that I had bound off way too tight. And I used my basic binding off method, which is just knitting 2, pulling the one stitch over the other, and I didn't use a stretchy method for binding off. So I thought I'm going to take these 200 plus stitches off the binding off edge and I'm going to redo the bind off. This happened. The ribbing was all wavy. It looked like garbage. It looked like garbage. I had a bit of a panic. Contacted a few friends about it, and one of my friends, Alice from Soxy Nana Alice, immediately called me and we talked it out. I ended up ripping out the entire ribbing at the bottom of the sweater and redoing the ribbing in another size down from the recommended needle size to make it a little tighter. And then I used the Jen's Super Stretchy, surprisingly stretchy, bind off method in 1x1. So I'm going to link that video below of the one I did, and it ended up working out perfectly. And now I have it laying flat, not curling up, and then I have to block it. And I'm a little nervous about laundering it. I'm not going to lie. I don't want it to get any bigger than it already is. So I have decided once I weave in the ends, I'm going to just lay it flat on the floor. I'm going to measure the length and the width and hope that it doesn't get too big, because it fits quite nice the way it is. And I am going to also do a little bit more research in regards to blocking it. I have been working on the next garment pattern, which is this McInness cardigan using Lion Brand Heartland yarn. Now, if you have not seen my previous episode, there is currently a contest running to win a sweater quantity of this to make this pattern, including the needle. So please go back and check out my last episode. The draw is going to take place on January the 15th. So there's still time to enter that. But I have to say, my friends, since I had Alice on the phone, I took advantage of it and I was telling her about my struggles with this pattern. And it is a very simple knit pattern. I was not expecting it to be as challenging as it was. I did several swatches to try to get gauge, and I have just come to the conclusion that there is a mistake in the pattern. Yeah. For the recommended size for the pattern is you get 20 stitches in 4 inches using a 5.5 millimeter needle. So I did a swatch. I wasn't going to because I kept having problems. I don't know if it was late at night, if I wasn't really paying attention. I did the swatch in the 5.5. I'm going to admit that I didn't take it off the needles when I measured it and I didn't block it. But I was getting 16 stitches and I needed 20 stitches and I'm like, what the heck? So then I ripped it out and I went down 1 needle size to 5 millimeter needles. Still didn't get the 20 stitches. Ripped that out and the only reason I wasn't keeping the swatch and ripping it out is because I was a little concerned I wasn't going to have enough in this color to complete the cardigan. Ripped it out a second time and went to 4.5 millimeter needles and I got 20 stitches. So that's a huge difference. I thought, okay, I'm using 4.5. Cast on 180 stitches, which was the size for the medium. There is a schematic. I also noticed that the pattern says just to use stockinette stitch for the first 20 inches before you separate for the sleeves. That is going to roll up on you. It's not going to lay flat. So I didn't like the idea of that. So I immediately thought I'm going to do some rows of garter stitch in the bottom just so I don't have to have it curl up. Then I decided I better get to Ravelry and see if anyone else has made this pattern and see if there's any notes. And I'm glad I did. There was not a lot of notes. There was only 2 projects that had detailed information. One of them said that she needed 4.5 millimeter to get gauge as well. So I thought, okay. And also was commenting that it was way too short in the body. So I am going to measure myself under my arm to my hip where I want it to land and make sure I knit that many inches because it just says 20 inches for any size, knit 20 inches before you separate the sleeves. So that was a good tip. Both of them said that it curled up on the bottom. So I'm glad I thought of that idea of doing a bit of garter stitch for it to lay flat. So I started knitting away. I was doing my garter stitch and then I changed to my stockinette stitch and I was looking at it on my circular needles, which was around 36 inches in length. And I'm thinking it's really bunched up. It looks really wide. I had, maybe 5 inches of it done. So I thought I better take this off the needle and measure the width and see if it matches with the schematic. And I was supposed to have 36 inches. I had like 44 inches. I'm like, what's going on? I may have picked up the wrong needle and cast on, but I don't think I did. And I'm not sure what was going on. I had to cast on 180. So I was sharing my woes with Alice. While I had her on the phone, I might as well get a good therapy session in. I ripped it all back and I decided I am going to knit a proper swatch one more time and I'm going to block it, which I did. And so I did it in the original 5.5 recommended needle. And I decided I like the drape of this. I do like the drape of it. And it is 16 stitches for 4 inches, not 20 stitches like the pattern says. Then I decided I'm going to look at this ball band again of this yarn, and I realized it says 5.5 millimeter recommended needle, but it says 16 stitches. Sorry, I keep saying inches. 16 stitches.
Yarn math, yarn math, yarn math.
Yes, I have to do yarn math, and if you know me at all, you know math is not my strongest suit in my skill set, but we did it. And I looked at it and I did it a couple ways. I kind of just did a weird calculation myself, and I came up with if I use 5.5 millimeter needles and I have 16 stitches per 4 inches, and my schematic says I need to have 36 inches, I have to cast on 144 stitches, not 180, which is a huge difference. Then I went online and I did find a bit of a calculation that you can use to modify your gauge to fit the pattern that you want to work with. Now I cannot find the link where I saw it, but I wrote it down and I'm putting it in the description field below so that you have it as a reference in case you ever want to do a modification. And here's how you do it. I think your pattern has to have a schematic so you know what the width is of your garment. So you have to multiply the width of your garment in centimeters. So the width of my garment in centimeters to fit me is 91.5 centimeters. So you have to multiply that by the number of stitches in your gauge. So I multiplied 91.5 centimeters by 16 stitches, and I got 1,463. Then you divide it by 10, 146 stitches. So I kind of guesstimated 144. So I'm doing 146 stitches on 5.5 millimeter needles. I started it again. I feel like this has been a huge time suck for what is considered an easy pattern, but I want it to fit. And I also want to make one for my friend Dude. Dude, not Jude. Maybe I'll make one for Jude too. Who knows? Because I got the yarn. And I want to make sure that it's going to fit. So I restarted it. Look at this, looks far more reasonable for 36 inches. I did take it off the needle and I remeasured it. I am on track. And I did do some garter on the bottom, so it's going to hang flat. So that's my recommendation to you. I have also put the pattern in the link below if you want to do it. I thought it was a really nice pattern. I do like the drapiness more so with the larger needle, even though you don't get the gauge. And hopefully next week, now that I'm on track, I will have much more of this done and my sweater done. So I considered that a bit of a 0, but I personally think I'm a hero for figuring it out. And thank you, Alice, for talking me off the ledge. The next thing I want to share with you is a pattern that I do all the time, but I tried it in new yarn. And this is a mitten pattern that I use for my markets. I've said it a million times. I am a mitten maker, and I do a lot of the same patterns all the time. Now, I received this yarn, this white, bright, vintage chunky Berroco yarn in Aberdeen's Wool Mystery bag. It is a bulky weight yarn. It feels super soft and squishy when it's hanged up like this. And I was quite happy because I have a lot of yarn that I'm using that is currently discontinued. And I thought this may be a good replacement for me to try knitting my mittens with, because it is the right amount of yarn on the hank and it is the right thickness. And the white yarn I am currently using is the Pattons Shetland Chunky yarn, which is discontinued. I have a bit in my stash, but it is dwindling quickly, and what am I going to do to replace it? So the pattern I always use is the Bella's Mittens pattern, which has got a cable on the front. I'll link it below. For my adult mittens, it works really great to put in the eyes and the face because I turn my mittens into animals. I do chickens, kittens, pugs, pigs, foxes, and now I have a new pattern, which is a polar bear mitten. I have only made it once, and it was made for a local artist named Cal Barteski, and I am going to launch it again this fall as something that the public can buy. She is going to also help me out and shout me out when I do present it on my Instagram. Now, if you don't know, I am on Instagram as MyPinkBathtub. I am also on Ravelry as MyPinkBathtub. I have a Facebook account. I'm not on Facebook very often. And I also have a Ko-fi account, which is used strictly for shipping. Any money that is collected and donated through there, I appreciate, but it is used to help ship goodies to others, such as the giveaway that was in my last episode. So with my mittens, I usually either knit them in a 5.5 double-pointed needle or a 5 double-pointed needle, depending on how thick the yarn is. Well, I started knitting with this in a 5.5, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it. This was almost going to turn into a 0 because I was a little bit panicky thinking, I did end up purchasing more of this for mittens, and I was concerned it wasn't going to work out, but it worked out beautifully. Tried on just the cuff. I could see my skin through the cuff. I didn't like it. It wasn't a tight enough knit. So I thought I'm going to put it on a 5mm needle and give it a go. And I found it was a little bit of stark white. Like, it's really nice, but when it was on the tighter knit, it didn't feel as nice. It was the right size. I ripped that back and I thought, I'm going to try it with Mohair. I have never used Mohair. I have some in my collection, and my intention for this was to use it to make teddy bears, which I'm hoping is my next project once I get this done. So I wanted to see what it would do to the fabric of these mittens. This is the Diablo from Hobbii. It's relatively inexpensive. You can get it on sale. It's 40% acrylic, 30% mohair, and 30% polyamide. Very, very thin lace weight. And I've heard that mohair can be a little tricky to frog. So I was glad to try it on a tried and true tested pattern that I always make. And I have to tell you, you guys, I am thrilled with the outcome. I have finished one of the mittens, and I don't know if you can really tell on the screen, but it softened it up so nicely. The feel of it is just amazing. It feels warmer. It's got a nice little halo to it, and it definitely softened the starkness of the white. I mean, it is still white. I am really thrilled with this. So I'm going to finish the second mitten. Next week I should show you what the polar bear mittens look like done. And I've got it on my second needle. And I just want to show you that I use a little bead, a little crafting bead, and hold the two together just to make it easy that I'm not going to have any problems with the mohair slipping out of the stitch. And I've had absolutely no problem with it. And I'm quite thrilled with it. I think it's the great first project to work with mohair. So I had to change my Facebook relationship status. So this was definitely, to me, a hero knit. I'm really excited to try new yarns and make them work out. You sometimes got to tweak it. You sometimes got to try different size needle to see what works. And the last thing that I have been working on this week that I'm just super, super happy about is my cross stitch project. I don't think it's going to take me a year to make this because I have just been going to town with this. I'm finding it so relaxing. Now, this is out of the Cross Stitcher magazine from the UK, and I am doing this fox pattern to go on my future fox wall. I'm just going to put the needle in here so I don't poke myself. I haven't done cross stitch in years. I have a bunch of supplies, and here it is on my hoop. I like to do the dark color first, like the outline first, and then it's kind of like coloring in. So it's been working out really, really well. When I do cross stitch, and I don't know if this is still a thing, on the Aida cloth, I always put masking tape around it, and I always mark the up. I usually have a really loose running stitch going through the center when I start to make sure that I'm working from the inside out properly and I'm in the middle of the fabric. But once you can recognize your pattern and your picture, I just pulled it out. So I have been spending a lot of time on this. I don't even normally do hoops, but I thought I would give it a try. And it's actually going to be a much smaller pattern and photo than I thought it was going to be. The original fabric that it called for was a 22 count even weave. which is a bit of a tighter, like a linen. Now 22 count on cross stitch is teeny tiny. And as we age, our eyes do not get better. So I was a little concerned about that, about seeing the proper holes to put it in. I did have it was a 28 count, and I had a 22 count fabric, and I took a look at it and I thought, no. I usually would go to an 18 count Aida cloth. So I did find some of that. I wanted the background to be white, and I'm going with that. And I wasn't sure how large the photo was going to be, so I found an Aida cloth calculator online. I'm going to link it below. You basically just count the width and the length of the project, put that in, and put in the type of cloth you want to use, and it gives you the size of your finished project. So, and it even includes like doing 2 or 3 inches of border around it. So I'm thrilled with this. I am so excited. I'm just gonna like pick it up whenever I feel like a change in my crafting. And this is everything I've worked on. So that is another hero. Zeros turned into heroes. Honestly, this McInness cardigan, I would have just gave it up by now. Like several swatches and not getting the right size, I would have just said, this isn't for me. But the fact that I'm doing a giveaway, and the fact that it's an accountability thing. I thought, I'm going to figure this out. I'm smart enough to figure this out, and I'm so glad I did. I'm glad I have that formula for future knits. It's kind of considered a modification now, and that's okay. So we're going to see how that goes. So now let's go on to the Canadian yarn I want to feature today. And the first province we're going to look at is British Columbia, which is in the west coast of Canada. I have a lot of family in BC. It's such a beautiful area with mountains, and it's just gorgeous. It's so funny when you go to a different part of your country, how different and diverse the geography is and the landscape, but I just love BC. I do not know a lot about many BC dyers. I have never ordered anything from BC. I am still fairly new to hand-dyed yarn. So this order that I had purchased for myself, bought it on Boxing Day. There was a lot of sales on Boxing Day. This actually was not on sale, but the price was very reasonable. And I bought it through an Etsy shop. It's called Wishes Stitch Co. And they are out of Chilliwack, BC. They are a small business. They also have quite a bit of sewing project bags. So take a look at them. And this is what I purchased, and then we'll talk about it a little more. This color I was really drawn to. It's coming out a little bit brighter on the screen, so I'm hoping it will darken up. I'm going to put it on the ottoman in a moment too and show you a bit of a close-up. It even came with a really cute little stitch marker. This is, the base is called Forest Sock, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. It is a 400 meter fingering weight yarn, and the color is royal velvet, and it's just gorgeous. So this was not on sale. I did partake in a lot of Boxing Day sales where there was 20% up to 35% off. This was $28, not on sale. And they sent me a 10% discount code, which is quite normal when you order something on Etsy. After your order, they will send it. But I seem to have had a discount code. I guess I was looking at some of the yarns in the shop earlier and didn't buy, so they sent it to me. But here's the kicker. This was free shipping. Free shipping, and it was shipped like this. It wasn't even shipped vacuum packed. Now, when you buy something vacuum packed, and I'm just going to go off the screen and show you what that looks like. We're going to talk about this yarn in another time. You will get it like this. It basically gets taken out of the ball band and it's still tied, but it gets flattened and then it gets sucked, the air gets sucked out of it, and it can be sent as letter mail. And usually it's $5. Now, if they don't vacuum pack it, I know in Canada, a lot of the yarn can be like $19 to ship a hank of yarn if it's not vacuum packed. So that was one thing I was really looking at a lot with companies if they were doing vacuum packing, or I was contacting them to ask them if they did vacuum packing to save on shipping. Because I want to spend my money on the yarn. I don't want to spend it on the shipping, if you know what I mean. And they have a lot of project bags, also free shipping. So everything in their site was free shipping. I don't know if that's a temporary thing or a normal thing for them, but $28, I had 10% off. So including tax and the 10% off, I paid $28.22 all in, shipped. And the shop owner was lovely. She sent me a message thanking me for my order. I also received a lovely little card with a little note in it wishing me a happy new year. Her name is Allison. So this is my first order within Canada. If you have not yet, please go back and look at the previous episode to enter the draw. It closes for January 15th, which I believe is a Monday, and I will be doing a separate video at that time to announce the winner. Now that I've figured out the crypticness of this pattern, hopefully some of you will want to make it. Let me know what your thoughts are on the modification. And until next time, my friends, please enjoy whatever you are working on, whether it be knitting, crocheting, cross-stitching. And we will see you again next week. I hope to have another new pattern that I'll be working on by that time and show you maybe something else that's finished. So take care and bye for now.